Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and do these three examples, and I've kind of already started them a little bit for you, and then we're going to go and let you practice some more. So in the first set, remember, we go to Stat, we go to Edit, we type in our information, our data set here, then we go back to Stat, go to Calculate, look at our information, okay, and we find that the mean, the average is 10, so I've already copied that down for us. And now we're going to look for this MAD number, this mean absolute deviation. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to find the distance that each of these is from zero, or from the average. So what you're going to be doing is we're going to take the number and we're going to be subtracting it, or looking for the distance that it is from the average. So the average here is 10, all right, and we want a distance, so it's just like absolute value. It's going to be a positive number. So we're going to take and do the distance from 10 is negative 10 to 10 is a distance of 20, okay? The distance from 0 to 10 is 10. The distance from 10 to 10 is 0. The distance from 20 to 10 is 10. The distance from 30 to 10 is 20, okay? And so those are all of the distances. We add all of them together because this is an average again, and we divide it by the number of data sets that we have, which in this case is 5. And so we do all the addition here. We get 60, we divide it by 5, and we end up with 12. So our mean average, or our mean absolute deviation here is 12. Okay. Now for standard deviation, we go to your calculator and we look for that little symbol right there, that little oddball looking symbol with the X, and that's our standard deviation, and it is 14 point some odd numbers. We're just going to use one decimal place here, so it's going to be 14.1. Okay. The variance is to take that and square it. So for variance, I'm going to take 14.1 and I'm going to square it. So I'm going to go here to my calculator. I'm going to quit out of that. I'm going to do 14.1 and I'm going to square that, and I get 198.81, and I'm going to round that to 198.8. Okay, I'm just going to use one decimal place on these. Okay. All right, so let's look through example B here, data set B. All right, same thing here. I'm going to go ahead and go to Stat, Edit. I'm going to go up and clear, enter all that out, and I'm going to put in 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. Okay. I'm going to go to Stat again, go to Calculate, do my one variance, Stats, Calculate, and my average here is 10. Okay. Now, I'm going to look here for my MAD. So I need to know, what is the distance from 8 to 10? Well, it's 2. What about the distance from 9 to 10? It's 1. The distance from 10 to 10 is 0. The distance from 11 to 10 is 1. And the distance from 12 to 10 is 2. And we're going to divide that by the number of points we have, which in this case is 5. And so we end up with 6, 2, 1, 1 and 2 is 6 divided by 5, which simplifies to 1.2. And so our MAD value here is 1.2, meaning that the difference that we're seeing between this deviation between the absolute value in each of the numbers is on average about 1.2, whereas up here, the difference between each of these numbers and the average is an average of 12. So it's more spread out. You have an average of about 12 between each of your values, whereas down here between each of your values, you have an average of about 1.2. And so that helps kind of visualize that these numbers are going to be much closer together than these numbers up here. Even though they have the same average, they're very different numbers. These are much closer together than these up here. Okay, that's what our MAD is. All right, then we look at standard deviation, which is up here on our calculator, and we have it's 1.4. And then we're going to do our variance, which is 1.4 squared. So we're going to go back to our calculator, do 1.4, square it, and we get 1.96. And we can round that to 2.0, okay? All right, so basics, this is not very difficult. It's just something that we continue to add to look at the information. So data set C is the very last one. We're going to do this example together, and then we'll be finished. So we're going to go to Stat, Edit, clear this out, type in our information. We have 1, 3, 12, 15, and 19. All right, we're going to go to Stat, Calculate this. Our average is once again 10. It will not always be that way. It just happens to show kind of how 3 different sets of data with the same average can be so different. We're going to go ahead and calculate our MAD. All right, so we're looking, the distance from 1 to 10 is 9. The distance from 3 to 10 is 7. The distance from 12 to 10 is 2. The distance from 15 to 10 is 5. And the distance from 19 to 10 is 9. And so we're going to add all those together and divide them by that same. We have 5 data points. Divide them by 5. So we get 32 divided by 5, which is 6.4. So there's our MAD score there. Okay. Then we come back to standard deviation, which is here on our calculator, which is 6.9. So 6.9 becomes our standard deviation. And then we work out our variance, where we're going to do 6.9 squared. And again, these are not going to be precise numbers because we are using an estimate. We're estimating and rounding. And so because we're not using precise numbers, we're actually rounding. Our answers are not going to be exact, but they're going to be very close enough that it will work for what we need. So 6.9 squared is 47.61, and we're just going to round that to 47.6. Okay, and so looking at this information, this is what this information all helps us do. It helps us to see how the data is spread. So all 3 of these sets of 5 values have an average of 10. These numbers range from -10 to 30, these from 8 to 12, and these from 1 to 19. These have are spread out much more, okay, by that MAD score of 12. These down here have a MAD score of 1.2, so they're much closer together. And these are kind of average. They're about 6 points away from each other from that average of 10. So they're fairly kind of in that neutral average area. And we'll talk more about standard deviation variance and what that means, but I definitely want you to see what that average versus that mean absolute deviation look like, and kind of how, even though all 3 of these have the same average, the numbers are completely different, and the way that they're spread out is completely different. So we need more than just 1 or 2 pieces of information about statistics to really look at numbers and data sets to see what kind of information we have. So we'll keep doing some more practice with this, but you have a backside to this that has 5 problems. They have a lot more than just 5 data points, so go ahead and fill all those in each time and find your mean, your MAD, your standard deviation, and your variance. And just remember, you're going to be subtracting these numbers and your average to find your mean absolute deviation. And you're going to be using all positive numbers on that, okay? No negatives there. We're just going to be doing the positive numbers for that distance. If you have any questions, let me know, and I will be happy to help you.